In this video from the 2016 World Championship final, we're going to have a close look at a travel call made by USA. I also asked followers on Instagram whether they thought it was a travel or not, and we're going to be going through the results of that poll.
Perfection on offense through 8 points. And this is looking like the type of game where perhaps 1 or 2 turnovers could decide it.
Japan field the pool, but Tanaka's first pass leads Katsuta to turn towards the sideline. This causes him to turn away from the previous thrower, and he doesn't see the immediate option of throwing back to Tanaka, who could continue flow on the far side with Kichikawa.
3 men around the disc, a 3-3-1.
After Tanaka swings the disc, Katsuta looks to receive the pass moving from behind, which will help him penetrate through the USA defense. But a travel is called. Having seen the play once, would you say that there was a travel on this play, or was there no travel? On Instagram, 93% of viewers thought that this was not a travel. So let's have a closer look at the clip, focusing on whether he was off the ground when he caught the disc, if he changed direction or speed, and whether he dragged his foot on the fake. After seeing the video a few times on Instagram, votes for no travel went down from 93 to 89%. So let's take it a step further. Does he leave the ground before or after catching the disc? On Instagram, 81% of people believe he took off before catching the disc, and 19% of people think it was at the same time, or that he was still in contact with the ground when he got full control of the disc. If we look at the video frame by frame, we can see that he leaves the ground before he catches the disc, meaning that 81% of the voters were correct. When asked to choose whether the type of travel was a foot drag as opposed to took too many steps or changed speed or direction, 39% of people thought that he dragged his foot. If we look closely, we can see that the foot does drag, but no more than about 6 inches or 15 centimeters, and if it had been planted any further forward, it would have been on the USA defender's foot. Whether it is technically a travel or not, do you think that this travel should have been called? The rule in the WFDF rule set is you should only make a call where the breach is significant enough to make a difference to the outcome of the action. I put it to Instagram, and 91% of people thought that this travel should not have been called, either because it wasn't a travel at all, or because it wasn't significant enough to have an effect on the outcome of the play. As the toe drag is such a small distance, and the USA defenders aren't right next to the release point, it's fair to say that this breach was not significant enough to make a difference to the play. So then we should look at whether he took too many steps or changed direction or speed after he caught the disc. It doesn't look like there's any significant breach in these regards, and if there is any change of direction, it would be to avoid any further contact with the USA defender. Let's do a quick comparison now between his first point of contact after catching the disc and where his pivot foot was when he reached balance. You can see there's only about 2.5 yards between these points, which is perfectly reasonable considering he accelerated towards the disc when he caught it. And this is where he sets his pivot point up after the USA move him back. There are two main questions here. Does Katsuta slow down as quickly as possible after catching the disc? And is his foot drag at the end a breach of the rules significant enough to make a difference to the outcome of the play? I.e., did the pivot drag actually change whether he would have been able to get the disc out or not? From what I can tell, he slows down as quickly as possible after catching the disc, and the drag at the end is not significant enough to warrant a call, as he's already gone past the USA defender, who is nowhere near his release point. If anything, the USA defender has positioned himself in Katsuta's way, possibly trying to draw the foul, and Katsuta does well to minimize the contact and the travel. So I then asked whether people thought that the USA made this call in good faith, or whether they knew that it was a bad call when they made it. Opinion on this was very split, practically 50-50, with some people messaging me saying that they didn't believe they could make such a judgment call having not seen the play up until that point. I wouldn't necessarily say that the call is in bad faith, but I do think the USA defender here has made an error of judgment on where Katsuta will naturally come to a stop, and makes the call because what happens doesn't match up with what he imagined happening. So I don't think the call was made in bad faith. I think it's just unfortunate that we're not used to seeing players make these moves more often and controlling their balance in the way that Katsuta does. Katsuta resets his pivot and throws a hammer over the top to Matsuno, and we'll see what happens in the rest of this point in the next video in this series. To get involved in the Instagram voting, follow me at Flexo37. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you again soon.
Matsuno.